Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all who are participating and joining us today from across India and the world. I'm Monica Bachchan Duvuri. I'm a founder of Metalogic Projects Management Services. And it's my pleasure to host this webinar, which is webinar number 56 in our series. At Metalogic, we are committed to connecting industry experts, professionals, enthusiasts to share insights and actionable knowledge. Today's session is particularly important because iron ore availability is one of the key factors shaping the growth, efficiency, and competitiveness of India's steel industry. With rising demand and global supply challenges, understanding the current scenario and future outlook is critical for steel makers, traders, and policymakers alike. So, before I start, a little housekeeping for our audience. Uh, Before we begin, please remain attentive and minimize background distractions to get the most out of today's session. You can post your questions at any time in the Q&A box. We will address them during the Q&A segment towards the end. If you see any poll question pops up during the session, we encourage you to participate. Your response help make the discussion more interactive and insightful. This program is currently live on youtube.com/metallurgicpms, which is our official channel on the YouTube. So feel free to share the link with your colleagues or friends who might benefit from today's discussion. We are honored to have our esteemed panel of experts with us today. We have Mr. Arun Maheshwari, Director Commercial and Marketing at JSW Steel, a leading voice on commercial strategy in the steel sector. We have Mr. Vijay Jhanwar, former President of Chhattisgarh Sponge Iron Manufacturer Association, bringing extensive insights on regional supply dynamics and challenges. We have Mr. Sabyasachi Mohanty, who is the Director Operations and Exploration and Additional Charge Director Project and Planning of Odisha Mining Corporation, an expert on mining operation and technical strategy in iron ore production. We have Mr. Suresh V, Director Commercial and MDC Limited, providing a strategic overview from one of the India's largest iron ore producer. We have Mr. Manish Kharbanda, President of Pellet Manufacturer Association, representing the perspective of private iron ore and pellet manufacturers across India. We are grateful to have such a diverse and experienced group to shed light on the challenges, strategies, and future of iron ore availability in Indian steel industry. Remember to post your questions in the chat and we will address them shortly. Before we start, a quick snapshot I would like to share with you. India is the second largest steel producer, and iron ore is its most critical raw material. With growing domestic demand, import dependencies, and logistical bottleneck and evolving government policies, today's discussion couldn't be more timely. Our goal is to give you an actionable insight on current availability, sourcing strategies, and future outlook for steel mills across India. Before I start my question, I want to raise a poll question on the screens. Please be very attentive to all the audience. So your first poll of the day is on your screen and it is on current iron ore supply. So please tell us how would you rate the current availability of iron ore for steel mills in India. You have got four options: adequate, no major issues, moderate, some challenges, limited, major constraints, or critical, severe shortage. And you have a second question on your screen: how dependent is your organization on imported iron ore? So you have again got four options: not at all, fully self-sufficient, low dependency, moderate dependency, and high dependency. Now, I would like to invite our first panelist of the day while the audience is now voting. So, Arun sir, I would like to raise first question with you. There's several mines bidded for very high premium. Do you see them getting operationalized? Over to you, Arun sir. Please unmute.
Hi, Monica. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here. Mines getting at a high premium has been a very contentious issue for several companies and for several states as well. we have to understand why the basic reason why the mines are going at such a high premium. One thing is that if it is for captive use, people are mindful what they are quoting for it, and they know the costing behind it, and they would like to make it operationalized. There are other set of bidders who just want to secure a source because they feel this is a rightful prime price premium and things will get sorted out, so they bid for it. And there is a third category who would just like to bid and squat the resource. They would not like to bring it into the market. And that is one of the most dangerous category, what I would prefer to be discussed upon. People, because the penalties are so low, that and the timelines are quite good. Like if I have to look at for composite license mining, total time limit given to make a mine operationalize is about 11 years, given all the extensions and everything. And the penalties maybe depending on the mine size and the resources, it could be somewhere around 10 crore, 20 crore, 30 crore rupees. But if I have an existing mine which is profitable and which can lead to some kind of, keep on giving me the price advantage if there is no more supply coming in, I would like to squat on the resource and ensure that the no more material flows into the market. So this is another way of stopping and after 11 years, I can jolly well give 10, 20, 30 crore rupees as a penalty. I can give away the mine. At the end of the day, India is not getting iron ore. At the end of the day, the iron ore prices remains high. At the end of the day, Indian steel remains costly. And if steel remains costly, the infrastructure cost in India remains very high. So the path of India, growing India, the Viksit Bharat, what we have a vision, what PM has a vision, by 2047, we should be so and so developed nation, 500 million ton steel. It is highly unlikely if the iron ore prices remain so high, so elevated, and high bid premium is one portion of it. I won't say this is the only reason for it. This is one portion of it, by virtue of which probably iron ore prices are elevated and the cost of infrastructure in India will remain high. And India may not be able to achieve what India wish to achieve by virtue of this.
Right, sir. I want to raise question to Mr. V. Suresh. Sir, NMDC is India's largest iron ore producer. How are you planning to, ramp up the production, increase the production with the growing domestic steel demand, sir?
Hi, Monica, and good afternoon to everybody. So, thank you for having me here. So, first and foremost, we have a plan for 2030, which is now under review whether it needs to be brought further closer to today. We have the deposits and all these things lined up for 100 million ton production with effect from 2030. Basically, it would be around 83 million tons from Bailadila, that is Chhattisgarh, and 17 million tons from Karnataka. And that 17 million tons is majorly because of the MPAP restrictions that we have. Otherwise, we could have probably gone up to 20. So even there, because we are working on other deposits also, but no success yet. And I would not want to get into the area of competitive bidding or anything right now, because it is the jury is out on that. So let us leave it at that. But yes, we have our plans, because the whenever we go in for a increase in our production, we have to have a 4-level. So it is not only the mine capacity enhancement alone or the statutory clearances alone which would do. So right now we are having the plan about how we want to do our mine capacity enhancement. Along with it, we are working for the downstream infrastructure also, so that we can get the material down from the hilltop, and also having the logistic capabilities to be enhanced. And the last step would be towards pelletization or whatever is. So that is, of course, that is a separate thing. But coming back to your question, yes, we are very much a part of India's growth story for 300 million tons. So we would be at 100. And if the present discussions that are going on about how we can enhance even further, we are happy in discussions with the various state governments also offered to us, and we are ready with that also. So we would be at 100 definitely, and maybe more. The logistics more or less we have made out. We have already invested on the downstream infrastructure required for that. We have already started work for that, getting the HEMM equipments, having the crushing plants, the downhill conveyors, the loading plants all in place. That work is already on. So it is an exciting time, and NMDC is at a point of inflection. So as my CMD often says, what we did in the past 60 years, we would have to do in the next 5 years. So glad to be a part of that. Yes.
This is amazing to see the plans, what you have done in 60 years. Now you'll be doing in 5 years. I'm taking this sort of similar question to Mr. Sabyasachi Mohanty now. Sir, Odisha accounts for the largest share of India's iron ore production. How does OMC plan to balance domestic steel sector needs with export opportunities, sir? Sir, you're on mute, sir. Please unmute.
Good morning. Good morning to all. And thank you, Monica. This Odisha contributes around 62% of the total India's iron ore productions. It has grown from 50%, 55% to 62% now. Out of Odisha's production, approximately 25% is being done by the OMC. And OMC in last 4 years, it has enhanced its production like anything. It has enhanced from the 12 million ton to now last year we have produced 35 million ton, and we have made the material 40 million ton available in the market. OMC has got a robust plan to meet the requirement. And this plan, this was the 5 years plan which was prepared in the last year. Till 2028, OMC has a plan to produce around 68-70 million ton. Again, this plan is under review, and it is going to increase basically for 2000 by 2030. It will be much more than that. As on today, by 2028, we will be producing 68 to 70 million ton. And if you see the environmental clearance and the capacity utilization in OMC, it is much higher than the any other mine owner. As on today, this year the OMC's iron ore EC, have a permissible EC is around 52 million ton, but OMC has got a plan to budgeted plan to produce 45 million ton, which is maybe 90%. It is maximum. I mean, if you see the India level, it comes around 65. Even in your auction mine also, they give 80%. And OMC has got a plan to go for 90% this year. And subsequent years, next year it will go for 50. Then thereafter 65 and 68 by 2028 under review now. It will go much higher than that. And in order to produce more, OMC has already geared up themselves. All these resource planning has been done. Their human resources has been done, and mine mechanization is under progress. And their all contracts are in place for that. And those which are not in contract, their long-term contracts are being made. And major challenges for that is the evacuation. For the purpose of the evacuations of the material of 70 million ton from the OMC's mine, so is the logistics infrastructure. We are in touch with our stakeholders. Our major stakeholders are the state-based end users. Although as per our policy, we give the 80% of our sellable stock to the LTL buyers and balance 20% gives to the e-auction. Out of that, maybe performance of the LTL buyer around 60%, 55-60%. And if you see the volume, now we are dispatching 45 million ton. To our LTL buyers takes around 27 million tons. Now it will go up to, if we say 70 million tons, it will go same ranges, it will go to 35 million tons for the LTL buyers, 37 million tons. For that, we are under the discussion with the stakeholders, how they can do their evacuation, how the mechanizations can be done by them, and what best OMC can facilitate to them, what needs to be done in our LTL policy also. So OMC is fully geared up to meet the requirement, and we have got a robust plan. It is under the review again for enhancement of that.
Thank you, Sabyasachi, sir. Now coming to Mr. Vijay Jhanwar, I want to ask you, sir, do you think government needs to rethink on the mine block auctions model to boost the growth of secondary steel sector? Because in the current model, we see that in the last 5 years, only primary producers have been able to secure resources.
Thank you, Monica ji, and for giving me this chance to speak on this subject. We have to understand the growth of secondary steel sector or any steel sector be it JSW also the primary producer, they have grown because merchant mining was available in last 25 years very aggressively in the private sector. But what has happened in last 5-7 years of bidding, 2015 MMDR Act, when it was first introduced, we brought in auction policy. From 2015 to 20, we hardly saw any auctions. Post 2020, when we have seen auctions, the current bidding methodology where there is no restriction on the premium side. So anyone can bid anything. So as Arunji rightly said, there can be a few producers who want to run their plants. They have to secure resources. It is their majburi to secure resources for large primary producers. For some of the players who are mining and who are under the non-auction route, they do not want that a flood of iron ore should come in the market. So this is hampering the growth of secondary steel sector. Because if iron ore doesn't come in a free flow at a reasonable price, the secondary steel sector cannot grow. Now, if we have to promote merchant mining, if we want that every merchant, until and unless the concept of merchant mining lives in the country, there cannot be growth of secondary steel sector. So that is why a meeting was held in August 2025 under the chairmanship of Honorable Union Ministers. And there the concept came, it was something discussed that why don't we think about a different model of auction where there is even some profits left for merchant mining, and a lot of deliberations is happening. So I think it is going in the right direction and we need to rethink, because someone saying that the market price is 100 rupees. What is ASP? ASP is the average of market price of that particular state. So if ASP is 100, that means iron ore is available from 90 to 110 rupees in the market from different mines depending on logistic costs on different grades. And someone is saying that iron ore is available at 100 rupees in open market. I want to pay 150 rupees premium. Then I want to do mining. I want to pay royalty. So in a way, what they are going to do, we don't know. So they are just sitting with the resources. So yes, there has to be a rethink to change the auction methodology. And besides changing auction methodology, what we also feel that there are responsible PSU miners like NMDC who have to be allotted more mines. So if NMDC or OMC or maybe CMDC or Maharashtra Mineral Development Corporation earns, they are earning it for the country. So if they mine maximum, so there has to be auction model changes, and there needs to be also a thought process to allocate more mines to PSUs like NMDC.
Understand, sir. Now I'll take the question to Mr. Manish Kharbanda, representing Pellet Manufacturer Association, carrying forward the discussion of Mr. Vijay Jhawar. Manishi, pelletization has emerged as a vital link in the ore value addition. What is your outlook on Indian pellet capacity versus demand growth? Manishi, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Monica ji, thanks for the opportunity. So, see, the pellet industry has been growing synonymously with the steel industry. It's absolutely the similar, like as of now, the pellet capacity is about 150 million tons, right? And so what I see is that in terms of the capacity utilization, we are currently at about 70%. We also need to understand that the pellets now are basically, if you see the 150 million ton capacity, about 60-65% is with integrated steel plants. And that's the way forward I see, because of the fact that there are various issues in terms of the merchant pellet plants. The merchant pellet plants are those that are very completely standalone plants. I don't see any plant coming up in future, right? Because it's absolutely not going to happen. It's not remaining competitive. There's underutilization, and that may impede the growth of pellets in India. So, but what we see is that by 2030, if the steel demand does reach 300 million tons, which is unlikely, even if it does, and we see the capacity as plant utilization of say 85%, you require about what 280, 255 tons, 290, 60 tons of iron ore. In that, I think the usage of pellets in the blast furnaces in a higher quantity is to be seen. So suppose if the blast percentage usage is 20%, you require the pellet growth is absolutely like 60 million ton as of the current capacity. If it grows to say 40%, becomes 120, and if it's 60%, 179 million ton when the steel production is 300 million tons. We have a already existing capacity of 150 million tons. What we need to see is how do we make the pellets competitive. The second point is to be understood is that the to make pellet competitive, we have to understand that it's one of the backbone of the industries. Because if you have to do sustainable mining, you have to take off the fines. Fines have absolutely no use in the industry, right? Unless and until you convert them. Sinter is something which you can do at integrated steel plants, but can't be used in DRI furnaces. So pellets is the way forward, but we have to see that we stop all kinds of imports of pellets happening, which is actually opportunism happening by some industries, which has to be stopped. So if the Prime Minister says use in India, make in India, we should be pellet exporters, and that is how the pellets were envisaged when it was set up. It has been in the FTPs, it has been in the EPCG schemes. And third thing that to be noted is that the pellets are actually which are utilized in the steel industry and the DRI furnaces are a high grade pellets, right? So basically it cannot be less than 62. If it's less than 62, then of course there are various proportions in which the steel industry magnates will understand. Arun is there, and I think JSW is leading the pellet mixing in the blast furnaces. They mix the highest pellets, which is good for the environment, good for their own slag production and reduction of the meeting the COP targets also, and good for sustainable production. Challenge, we need to have iron ore, of course, one at a competitive price, which is of course lower, fines, because, and I think when Sabyasachi ji is there, Odisha, I think, I'm not saying that there's something wrong, but then certain actions have been taken which were not in good. For example, even the charging of royalty on low grade fines is done at the higher grade of lumps. That's sub judice in the Supreme Court. I think the government is of public interest. They should come forward and accept. If you make a mistake, there's no problem in accepting it. That will bring down the market, that will boost beneficiation. And if that boosts beneficiation, pelletization, of course, will get enhanced. The prices will come down. And of course, we will see that the pellet utilization in the blast furnaces will be up, which will also impact sustainable mining because you need less quantity of lumps. Pellet reduces lump. Otherwise, you are just not looking at the intergeneration equities, and there are court cases already there on capping, on mineral capping in Odisha. So I think all this ecosystem has to be very carefully thought about.
Thank you so much, Manishi, for giving your perspective. To the audience who have joined a bit late, I suggest you to kindly participate in the poll question which I have raised just now. We will keep this question active for 2 more minutes and then we will close the poll. So carrying forward your discussion, Manishi, I want to raise question from Arun Maheshwari ji. Iron ore grade is getting lower day by day. How do you see to mitigate this issue, sir? Arun, sir.
So yes, this is a phenomena which will continue in any material because earlier part of the industry when it was there about 50, 60 years back, yesterday we had a session wherein I understood from one of our colleagues from the PSU sector that they were rejecting the material below 61 grade and they were utilizing everything high. Today 61 looks to be a very high grade material in India. So it is a natural process. I won't say that was wrong or this is right. But as we grow, we have to develop technologies how we can use lower grade material as we move forward. We have experienced it in Vijayanagar as JSW. We have developed huge beneficiation plants. We are upgrading our material. We have used technology how to use low grade in our sinter plant or in a pellet plant or in our usage in our blast furnaces anywhere or in the process. So, if there is any deficiency, whether it's in human life or in the production, there are other strengths which needs to be generated. I think people should now start working on the alternate technologies wherein low-grade iron ore can be used, upgraded and used. I think a lot of effort has to be put onto that sector also by the user industry or the mining industry whoever wants to sell iron ore. Just simply putting up and making it a dump and thereafter it gets rotten for years, it doesn't make sense. I understand there are millions and millions tons of slimes lying in some of the mines, which is not getting evacuated. So there are certain policy which also needs to imbibe to use this material. There are people who are eager to use the material. There are people who wants to sell the material. There are buyers who want to buy the material. Now what happens? There is a 10 million ton EC for a mine. Now the condition is that 10 million ton you have to produce and sell whatever the material is there. If there is any byproduct available, whether it's in terms of slime or any downgraded material, that is also considered under EC conditions, which is quite unfair because you have already utilized your EC condition while producing that material which was to be dispatched. This material is lying in the dumps. This material is lying in the valleys. it is deteriorating the environment. It's better to get rid of that material from that area, and it increases the availability, increases the new technologies, and everything is sorted out to an extent. So as I said, hybrid premium was the first question. The second question, how to increase the availability, is that you allow the slimes or the dumps to be sold in the market. Don't link it to the EC condition, because the EC is already utilized for that particular material. So it is quite a double whammy for the mining industry, for the user industry. Mining industry wants to sell that material, but the conditions are such they are not allowed to sell the material. So I think a lot of work has to be done on the policy side as well as from the mining side, both.
So now, since we are talking about the low grade of iron ore and pelletization, I want to raise question to Sureshvi sir. Do you see beneficiation and pelletization becoming, sorry, I'm really sorry. Yeah. So do you see beneficiation and pelletization becoming integral part of NMDC's long-term commercial strategy, sir?
Yes, just taking a clue from what Arunji has just said about relooking at all the waste dumps that are available at NMDC. I think that alone would sustain the country for a year. That is the kind of this we have. And second is with regard to slimes. We have a pellet plant at Donimalai, which has been non-functional for the past, I don't know how many years, because of a dispute with the forest department about whether the dam that is lying was created by NMDC or it is God's own creation. That is the kind of problem that we are facing today, and the pellet plant has never functioned after that. But having these things are leaving them as the past, we are coming up with a pellet plant at Nagarnar, which is a 2 million ton plant immediately, which will be scaled up to 8 million tons in the near future, 6 million tons in the near future. And we are even now exploring whether we want to go in for greater quantities, because there is a slurry pipeline which is coming up from my mine to Nagarnar, which would cater to this. See, primarily, I would like to concentrate on the secondary sector of Chhattisgarh, which initially would need whether I give them a certain lump from my mine, which is a natural lump, which is a DRCLO, which is a treat for most of the secondary sector. But I know that there is a limitation to it about how much quantity I would be giving. And with the kind of growth that I see at my doorstep in Chhattisgarh, I would like to sell more of these pellets in this area itself, saturate it, and then move forward wherever I would like to go. And that is one thing that we are looking at. And we are also coming up with a pellet plant at Vizag, which would be the next stage. But the first stage would be the one at Nagarnar. If we can scale it up, maximize, saturate the potential here, and then move on to other places. The second point is regarding the beneficiation part of it that you have said. Beneficiation, again, the restriction with regard to statutory clearances are a nightmare for us. We have not been able to sort out those issues, though in some small scale we are trying our best, but probably less with beneficiation and more with blending. We will be able to reach a conclusion and reach an answer for usage of the low-grade ore, because I also agree with what Mr. Arun has said, that it is a sin to waste the low-grade ore that are lying in our mines, number one. Number two is that how best we can use it. Yes, we are blessed with certain amount of high-grade ore, so we can probably blend that ore to reach a more reasonable grade. Yes.
Thank you, Suresh sir. We have the poll result of our, which we asked on the iron ore supply. The majority, 48%, says they have moderate or some challenges in procuring iron ore for their mills, while 22% says they are adequate, and 5% says they're on a critical condition. Coming to the question number 2, how dependent is your organization on imported coal? 57% of our audience are saying they're very much dependent on imported iron ore, which is ये तो breaking news हो गया almost, as in for the country who is so rich in raw
Oh,
material.
Monica, I believe you're reading the other way. The organization imported iron ore not at all is 57%.
How dependent is your organization on imported iron ore? So it says fully self-sufficient. Yeah, I was reading it wrong. So yes, but there is a percentage which says 9%, which says highly dependent. So I'm coming to the next question, and since we are talking about low grades and of course availability for the secondary steel, I'm raising this question to Mr. Vijay Jhawar. Sponge iron units often face supply insecurity and higher ore cost. What are the ground level challenges you see, Vijay ji?
Before answering this question, Monica ji, I will say that I have seen the time of prior to 2005, and since OMC and NMDC is sitting over here, prior to 2003 and 4, those were the years where customer was king in iron ore industry. But in last 20 years, it has changed to supplier is king. Now customer is no more king. There are only a few limited suppliers. So if this thing continues in the country where the smaller plant face challenges of high price of iron ore, unavailability, inconsistency of supplies, and there is no stability in pricing. It's not a long way that in maybe 10, 15, 20 years, a lot of around 200 to 300 sponge iron plants will die. And there will only be a limited primary players and large secondary players. Although they call themselves secondary, but there are capacities above 2 million tons in secondary sector also. And the way mining auctions are turning up, there will be only limited players having their own captive mines. So that will be a challenge for even merchant miners like NMDC, OMC. So there has to be a balance. We are facing critical challenges with regards to supply because CLO is deteriorating day by day. If we see the production of CLO, it is decreasing because no virgin mines is coming up for production in merchant category. So all the older mines, the percentage of iron ore fines has gone up to 80-85%. So when CLO is decreasing and the demand for CLO from the secondary steel is growing, so therefore the price of CLO is very much on the higher side. If we see the differential rate between iron ore fines of 64 grade and the iron ore lumps of 66 grade, the conversion is around 1.8, which the IBM also brought into. Internationally, the difference between fines and lumps is hardly 10 to 15%. But in India, this difference is growing, and therefore we face challenges. CLO, and then again pellets. Pellet is again since it's a manufactured product, and pellet producers many times face challenges of non-availability of iron ore fines, high price of fines, and then the export of pellets is also happening. So we have total inconsistency. I would request the panelists are there who are our suppliers that you please come up with some policy for a 3 monthly pricing, at least some sort of linkages, like if a smaller plant has a requirement of 1 lakh tons, then why not at least 50,000 tons be provided on a quarterly pricing basis, and that pricing can be based on what are the steel prices or sponge iron prices. So this will help the secondary steel sector to grow with some consistency in pricing.
Coming to Mr. Manish Kharvanda, how can pelletization help overcome challenges of low-grade utilization in India, sir?
See, Monica ji, let's understand a couple of things, which of course, most of the steel magnates here know, but for the viewers, iron ore, when they're talking about lumps. I'm again reiterating, fines are useless. Absolutely no use, nil use. So basically, if you talk about iron ore, and that is what I said, that the first thing is to understand that how can we actually make it more productive is by enhancing the pelletization and reducing the cost of pelletization, right? Today also, since it's a primary metallurgical process, the conversion cost, depending on the plant size, capacity, and efficiency, is anywhere between 2,000 rupees to 2,500 rupees. Now that money will get added on iron ore lumps because the lumps are coming directly from the mines. So obviously, whatever is the arbitrage of production and with some profitability, that has to get added on, right? That's one. So the first notion is iron ore fines cannot be used completely waste of the mine against sustainable mining. Only technology can save it, and the technology is pelletization. Sinter can only be used by integrated plants, not by secondary plant. Right? That's number one. Point number two, pellet has always been in the FTPs, EPCG, I'm again reiterating, it was always meant to be exported. It was never said that pellets will be only available for domestic industry. Today also, even with the domestic industry, even with the 7 to 8% of exports, the current percentage is 7%, which is like laughable. Even on that, the capacity utilization of pellet plant is 70%. So what we have, we can't consume. Now the third question is the pricing. Why we can't consume is the price arbitrage is high, right? And since the price is high, we are dependent on the iron ore fines because that's the input material to us. And we are saying that let's disintegrate it. We said Odisha 50% of the iron ore. Let's be very clear about it. Odisha is stuck because of a Supreme Court case where they said that on the fines they will put the highest royalty of lumps, which only happens there because of some reason, somebody did it in some time. Now neither can they do anything, neither can we do anything. We have to see how fast the issues can be resolved in the Supreme Court. The case has been pending for about 10 years now, right? And that is why the process of beneficiation, which people mentioned, is not picking up. Beneficiation can only pick up because if you see in the iron ore process, in the entire circuit, the slimes and the waste are coming out at the beneficiation stage only. So if you put in 100 tons of iron ore, depending on the circuit, you may get 50 to 60% of upgraded ore. In hematitic ore, forget Orissa would be different, Chhattisgarh will be different. Chhattisgarh is very hard ore. Beneficiation can lead to a increase of 8 to 10%, also depending on investment and the circuit. Odisha 5 to 6%, nothing more than that. So we have to see that how beneficiation can go up, and as Suresh pointed out, very rightfully so, it's just not the fines. It's the clearance, it's the slime generation process. Where do we store it? Forest clearance is not coming. The government is currently working in one direction, which of course all of us are very grateful about. But I think this area also has been highlighted again and again that if beneficiation happens, then the cost of fines will go down, sorry, my mistake. And as the input cost goes up, the cost of pellets will also go down. And if the pellets go down, then the utilization and availability to secondary sector goes up in a big way. They can't use iron ore fines, right? Because what we are talking about is all about fines. Again, reiterating, steel, whether it's spawn, DRI, any circuit, it only can use lumps. Fines can be only used in the form of pellets. So what all the government is doing is trying to see that how do we make the fines cheaper by any means, right? So we have to somehow secure that the beneficiation takes up. Not only, of course, first the iron ore fines have to be available at a cheaper cost. Orissa has to take a lead. And second is that there has to be policies which the government is about to take a decision, which ensures that the fines are available for beneficiation at a low cost. And they are
Right.
competitive.
Since we are talking about the prices, I want to raise this question to Mr. Sabyasachi Mohanty. With increasing auction-based allocation, what role do you see OMC playing in stabilizing ore prices, sir?
The OMC is here to supply the raw material in a reasonable price to the industries. So the main aim of OMC is to industrialization, to make the material available to the industry. And OMC does the price very scientifically. And OMC nowadays, OMC considers the profitability of his customer also. What is the landed cost of the customer in the mine, in the end use plant, and how much profit he is getting it. So we have got a formula based price, which is being reviewed in our board committee. Then it is decided what floor price we keep it. Although market dynamics is a part of the factor, and OMC profitability is also part of the factor. Any organization runs, it has to run with the profit, but the making profit is not the motto of OMC. OMC's main motto is for the industrialization, to make the material available as much as possible at the reasonable price. Even it is a B auction, whether the auction mines are coming and they are flooded with the mineral in the ore in the market, or there is no material in the market, it does not depend. OMC does not depend on that. Main motto is to supply the material, make the material available for the industry.
Right, sir. So audience, I'm raising another poll question in front of your screen. We will continue this discussion of pricing after this poll. So this poll is on policy and regulation impact. There are two questions in front of your screen. Please start voting. The question number one is, how much do government policies and mining regulation affect iron ore availability for your operations? You have got four options: very low, negligible impact, moderate impact, high impact, very high critical impact. You have question number 2 in front of your screen. What strategy do you consider most effective to ensure stable iron ore supply? Long-term contracts with suppliers, increased domestic sourcing, strategic import, investment in captive mines. So since we will allow audience to continue to vote, I want to raise the question to Mr. Arun Maheshwari. What's your view on export tax on iron ore and pellets?
See, Monica, one thing we have to understand why export tax was implemented earlier, why it was abolished, why it is being considered or it's being talked again. It's largely to make iron ore available in India. There's no other way why government is contemplating, how to make available. If I have to look at it in the last 7-10 years, what India used to export 100 million ton of iron ore, it has gone down to 30 million ton. Even with export tax or without export tax, it has reduced. Now there is no export tax. Still, there is a 30 million ton export happening only, as against 100 million ton what 110 years back. That is largely because of the domestic iron ore consumption has gone up, because of the steel production is going up. Now, if export is not happening or export is reduced to say by 70 million ton over the last 10 years, still the prices have gone up by 3 times in the last 10 years. What is the basic reason for that? Is basically iron ore supply is not commensurate to the demand what the steel industry wants. So the government is contemplating this idea. If the iron ore supply is not increasing and the demand, what our vision is to become 300 million ton by 2030, 500 million ton by 2047, we need incremental iron ore every year, 35 million ton. If I had to look at the past supplies, only domestic supplies I'm talking about. If export had to be remaining 100 million ton, the domestic supply was only 5 million ton per year. Imagine iron ore deciding what steel capacity India should be having. It is quite dichotomy for us. India which wants to grow, India who has a capability, India who has a single largest strength of having our own iron ore, and we are not exploring it fully. If we explore fully iron ore availability to Indian production, the infrastructure cost, which we have say $1,000 per ton, will go down to $600 per ton, $700 per ton. Imagine the kind of vibrancy we can bring into the entire industry just by one factor. So export tax is nothing but government's thought process how to increase iron ore availability. So end of August, what Mr. Vijay Jhawar had mentioned, end of August, there was a big meeting in Delhi, wherein there was very clear direction by honorable cabinet ministers that if iron ore is sufficiently available in India, iron ore export should be 4 times than what it is happening today. Imagine the vision what we have. Such a wonderful vision that every industry should be growing, but domestic industry should be given a preference first. Rather than exporting only no value-added material, it's better to add value within India. Investments, jobs, everything has to be within India first. If there is a surplus still, it should be going out. Now, there could be debate, counter debates that there's sufficient available, but sufficient available at what price? Are we competitive? Are we exploring our strength? Which the answer today is no, because we are not exercising our strength and we are not bringing enough supply in the market. There could be hundreds of reasons for that, which we have been deliberating, discussing, and government is trying their best to find out the issues. NMDC is trying their best to bring the production into the system. OMC has been having some challenges in few of the mines, which I am sure they are taking up with the suitable authorities to increase the production from those mines. If those things happens, I think we are in a very good state. Steel industry, the iron industry, pellet industry, small manufacturers, everybody would survive and everybody would thrive and make India great.
So now since we are talking about the availability and allocation, I want to raise another question to you, Arun sir. Several blocks are allocated to PSU or state-run companies. However, production is not happening. How to bring such resources into the market? And then I will want to come to OMC and NMDC after this question.
So ideally, Monica, why it were allocated to the PSUs or the OMDCs or NMDC and OMCs? Largely because they were the custodian of the material to bring available material at a reasonable price in the market. Profiteering was never the motive when it was allocated to them. Now, over the years, when you see that the revenues are going almost 4 or 5 times than it was over 3 or 4 years back, it has become a profit motive to some of the companies. I think that the ideology has changed. That needs to be addressed. If the mines, if they are sitting on the resources which has not been explored or not brought into the production, I think the government should be rethinking on those allocations. Any mines which has not worked for last 4, 5, 10 years, it should come back into the auction regime, and it should be allowed for anyone to explore and bring the production into the market. Or rather, I would say, give it to people like NMDC who would be very eager to take the production up.
So coming to you, Suresh sir, what are NMDC's initiative to make ore supplies more reliable and affordable for secondary steel producers? And also, if you could tell us if there are logistic bottlenecks in ore evacuation, especially from Chhattisgarh and Karnataka, sir.
So the first point is that affordability will come with availability.
Yes, sir.
That is the crux of the matter. So let us have it into two parts. That is that for the first part is, as far as NMDC is concerned, we hardly have any headroom with regard to EC. My EC utilization is probably a very enviable portion today. And that is because we have been more or less, so the statutory clearances which will eventually lead to an EC being given to a mine of NMDC or anything still remains a challenge, because there is no green channel for me which will encourage me or which will help me to make more material available in the market. Yes, the logistic challenges are there. When I move material from Bailadila, which is in Chhattisgarh, to Raipur, which is also in Chhattisgarh, I go around the world to reach Raipur, or I have to move, the material has to move tediously to the this one by road, which is again definitely not a this one. And since we are also working on many other things like a rail line, which will help us to reach out to this one, which is probably next 3-4 years at least it would take. It is a nightmare. So logistics, reaching out material to anybody. See, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in wilderness, which is there, and that is how an iron ore mine is supposed to be also. Otherwise, probably I would not be able to mine it also. So moving material there is going to be is a challenge for me. And again, I would like to say that as far as affordable and reliable supplies are concerned, we are committed to that we would not squat on resources. We are working on all the resources to ensure that every mine, that is the advantage of being a merchant miner in the public space, that I would definitely be more interested to exploit all the resources available and reach out the material to the end users. And as far as the secondary users are concerned, secondary steel producers are concerned, as was also mentioned by Mr. Manish, pelletization is going to be the way, and we are moving in that direction also very rapidly. We can even think of having some kind of this one, but it would otherwise my slurry or my fines are not going to be of any help for any secondary unit unless I have a intermediary pellet plant also in between. So yes, availability is going to be the game changer. We are under discussions about how we can probably expedite the date of 2030 to be a bit further. 2030, incidentally, would be the time I would be turning 60 and I would be retiring. So I would also like to have the action happen before I hang up my boots. So that's it.
Definitely, so we'll be hopeful. And coming to Mr. Sabyasachi, what step is OMC taking to ensure stable long-term supply contracts to steel mills, especially MSME-based units? And another question I want to ask you, how is OMC integrating sustainability and environment compliance while scaling production to meet India's steel demand targets?
Yeah, the first part of your question, Monica ji, that is what step is OMC taking for the maintaining the requirement of the MSMEs? Yes, OMC, as I told you earlier, OMC is utilizing around 90% of his EC capacities. And OMC, as on today, OMC's total number of leases are 15 iron ore leases, out of which OMC's is operating with 12 mines, 12 leases, another 3 leases, which will be operating in due course of time. Maybe next three to 4 years, we are operating all the balance 3 leases. So total 15 leases which are there in OMC, that will be under operating conditions. First part. Second part, if you see the last 3-4 years, OMC has operated around 5 leases which are not in operations. They brought it into the market, brought into the operations, and the market is getting the material from there. And the major lease for the OMC is Gandhamardan, and the other 2 leases, Kurmitar and Daitari. All the leases are under the expansion now, as per the enhancement of the productions. OMC has already geared up for the expansion of the Gandhamardan, Daitari, as well as the Kurmitar. Yes, the different statutory clearances are the challenges. Like forest clearance is the major challenges for all the mines. We have to look into it. OMC is trying for it in talk with the discussions with the central and state government for this purpose. And regarding the meeting the MSMEs, so as it is told that as it has been discussed earlier also, that most of the MSMEs are the lump consumer. Yes, in OMC's mines also the lump is the percentage of the lumps are coming down. Now it has from the 40% to it has come down to maybe 20-22% only. But MSMEs, they can use the pallet also. For that, OMC is, as I told you, they're gearing up for the production of all the mines where the fines will be available at the reasonable price. And our production target is 70 million ton, and which is under review, may go up to 100 million ton by 2030. By 2028-29, we'll be going up to 70 million ton. This is the answer to your first question. Second question regarding the sustainability and environmental. Yes, for the sustainability and environmental part, you can see that out of OMC's 12 mines, 2 mines are consistently getting the 5-star rated, our Daitari and Kodingamali mine. Although Kodingamali is the bauxite mine, Daitari is the iron ore mine, that is getting 5-star rating. And regarding for the environmental purpose, for the logistics purpose also, we have already started operating our 2 captive railway siding, so that the truck dispatch will be reduced. And now we are thinking for the environmental degradation. OMC is also in the planning to go for the beneficiation as well as the pallet. Although it is in the nascent stage, I cannot say it now. But yes, it is also in the back of our mind. And OMC takes care of the environment very. And also OMC in the discussions with his stakeholder, how the mechanized evacuations can be done from the OMC's mine, maybe by jointly, because we sell the material actually X mine basis. So how we can facilitate my buyers, by stakeholders, to get the material through the mechanized evacuations, so that the truck transportations and other environmental degradation can be reduced.
Right, sir. So, coming to Mr. Vijay Janwar, how can the government and miners better support the SME-based sponge iron sector in terms of assured ore supply? And I want to ask you another question. Are there any specific policy reforms or pricing mechanism you would like to advocate for to protect smaller players?
Nikaji, smaller players always needs a consistent supply of iron ore at a reasonable and competitive price. Tell me one thing, can anyone even think of producing steel if his iron ore landed cost is at 10,000 rupees per ton and compete with someone whose iron ore landed cost is at 2,000 or maybe 3,000 rupees per ton? Can secondary steel even think about competing? So there lies the answer. We have to understand that if we have to increase iron ore availability at a reasonable price, no one is discussing about 2 major players in the country who are holding more than 10,000 hectares of iron ore mining leases in Odisha alone. We have to understand Tata Steel and SAIL, they are holding the major iron ore resources because it is their legacy to hold it since last 80-100 years. So these 2 players also needs to be put pressure that you increase the production. There are 4 companies in the country, SAIL, Tata Steel, NMDC and OMC. If each one of starts producing 100 million tons of iron ore, there will be no shortage of iron ore for anyone in the country. We have to adopt a different model wherein today in coal sector, we see that the coal production has increased from 450 million tons to 1,000 million tons by Coal India in a period of 10 years. There was a vision behind. So if coal production, where the density of coal is very less compared to iron ore, where the overburden ratio, stripping ratio is much higher, the challenges in coal mining is much higher than iron ore mining. If coal production can increase from 450 million tons to 1,000 million tons only by Coal India, can't our PSUs take such steps where OMC, NMDC Steel starts producing 30 million tons and Tata Steel is asked to produce 100 million tons? If 400 million tons of iron ore comes by these players, definitely the pricing policies will also amend, because of course iron ore cannot be utilized in any other industry. So everyone needs consumers. So we need steps to enhance production. As Suresh sir rightly said, only the availability will increase the affordability. On the same side, since we know that availability is less, we would request the largest miners, OMC and NMDC, to formulate a policy where we have a consistent iron ore supply mechanism with some pricing strategy on a quarterly basis. What happens, like today, the smaller industry makes a payment to maybe NMDC. It takes 2 to 3 months for the delivery of that payment. So there is no, today we make payment on X amount, and when we get the material, we don't know what is going to be the price of that amount of that material when it reaches. So if there is a quarterly pricing, at least we will have some consistency on pricing. And since pricing is very, very dynamic, so and PSUs have to consider a lot of factors, only the officers sitting and take a conscious call that how they can support the smaller industries.
Right, so I believe the ball is in the court of NMDC and OMC, how we are seeing it right now. So audience, I'm closing the poll right now, and let's have a result. So the question was, how much do government policies and mining regulation affects iron ore availability for your operations? And the majority of the vote, 47% says high impact, and 33% second majority says very high critical impact. So definitely government policies and regulation play a very vital role for the operations. Our second question was, what strategy do you consider most effective to ensure stable iron ore? And the majority, 40% says increased domestic sourcing, while 33% says long-term contract with suppliers. Coming to you, Manishi, I want to ask you, do you see policy or export regulations impacting pellet producers' ability to support domestic mills? And I also want to ask you, what collaborative opportunities exist between pellet makers, miners, and steel mills to create a more secure supply chain? Manishi.
Thanks a lot, Monica ji. I think so of course, yes. See, again, I'm just wanting to instill this point in the audience and everybody. Iron ore is lumps and fines. Lumps is what is something which fines, if there is an export policy of the government, is going to impact the pellet producers. Absolutely, yes. Right? It's good for us because, and if it is good for us, the output is good for the users. So you have to understand that pellets are utilized, fines are consumed only by pellet industry, else they are waste. Point number one. Point number two is that in terms of the government policy, I would also request, since the government is extremely proactive and there have been steps being taken by the government to ensure availability in the market, that they have to ease off the beneficiation, because even if you have fine availability which is low grade and beneficiation doesn't happen at competitive prices, it's not going to add any value to anyone, because the issues which Suresh pointed out upon on putting up where to put the slag, slimes, forest coverage areas, how to do I do it, the beneficiation, and the major issue is of course is Odisha, 50%. They have to get the duties down, the royalties have to come down on low grade ores because it has to be made cheaper. If it goes cheap, then benefits, and it has to be beneficiated, because if you say that I will use a pellet of less than 60% in a blast furnace, highly unlikely. Maybe some advanced plants can, but not everybody, right? So of course, R&D on that. JSPL is setting up a R&D center, Angul, just on these issues and various other issues. Third is that OMC has to understand that it's a dominant player in Odisha. The pricing mechanism is there, but it has to be made transparent. A dominant player cannot be saying that I'm looking at pricing. So government, of course, companies are in public interest. They have to make profits, but the profits have to be reasonable and proportionate. That's the other one. In terms of looking at whether the steel industry the collaboration is pretty clear. All of us understand that you are not chasing one target as a country. You are also chasing the COP targets, right? Which is absolutely essential. And you see a lot of fight happening in the environment on that. Keep an eye on that. For that, you need to use the pellets in as much quantity as possible. because that is going to reduce your CO2, NOx, SOx. It's all proven. It also reduces the coking coal consumption, which actually leads to lesser imports, lesser dollar outflow. Answer, pellets. There's no other answer. Pellets and cheap pellets, whether it's secondary industry, what Vijay has been speaking about, very rightful points Vijay has said. So answer is that iron ore segregate, understand the concept, lump is replaced by pellets. How you replace them by cheaper pellets is what we want. How the steel industry consumes the cheaper pellets is what we want. And how do we actually keep on growing the merchant pellet is what we look forward to.
Thank you so much, Manishji. So I want to ask our panelists, are the questions available on your screen? The audience have raised certain questions. Before we close, we'll take a few questions. We have question from Aarti Gupta from Rio Tinto. She want to know what is the target for financial year 26 for NMDC and OMC? Suresh sir and Sabyasachi sir.
NMDC would be around 55 million tons for this year.
OMC will be producing approximately 45 million tons.
Okay. We have another question from Smruti Prakash Sahu. When the iron ore grade is reduced to 20-25%, is it feasible to run a plant with this ore to cost effective? Maybe Manishji can answer to this, or it's about low grade.
So see, I think the 25% ore has absolutely no use. And when you say ore, again, say fines, don't say lumps. It's fines. 20%, 5% fine depends on what is the iron ore. If it's magnetite, yes. But if it's hematite, no. As of now, technology will not support magnetite. Of course, there are some attempts, and I read certain things happening somewhere in Maharashtra where they are saying that they are going to upgrade banded hematite quartzite of 25 to 62. We'll have to see, because that will be a world record.
Okay. Mr. Surendra Kumar Biswal want to ask, is OMC going to make a value addition of utilizing low and lean grade through beneficiation and pelletization? Sabyasachi sir.
Yes, OMC has a plan, although it is in the, as I told earlier, it is in very nascent stage now. OMC has got a plan, and it is under study, I can say. That's all I can say now.
Okay. And yeah, sorry, please continue.
Yeah, OMC is planning for it now. All studies and other things are going on now.
Okay. And there's a question for Maheshwari ji. Low grade should not be charged as premium. It should be used through beneficiation and pelletization. It's a comment from Mr. Surendra Kumar Biswal. You want to comment on this?
No, I'm not saying it should not be charged any premium. I'm just saying that the policies should be such that it should be made available as early as possible before it is too late. And there can be a framework policy. I believe there is a public consultation paper on the pricing of low grade. So that can be charged to that. And nothing should come for free for anyone. I'm very clear about it. But it should be at a reasonable price, so that the industry survive. Everybody should be happy at the end of the day.
There's a question from Manish Kumar. He's asking, is there any vision for Indian steel industry for pellet and iron ore beneficiation? Do we have any vision plan for this?
The vision, I don't think so. We see a government document on that. Obviously, the industries are themselves looking at it. As we discussed, the pellets, the growth is looking at about 200 million tons by 2030. I'm afraid it may not happen in the merchant category, but it will happen. We are sufficiently placed, and beneficiation can only take off when the low grade fines are available at cheaper cost. Odisha, of course, has to take up some policy issues up, and of course the pricing, and then of course the issues related to the beneficiation, whether it's storage or slimes, and looking at better technology like paste technology for the slimes, or where to store them. Do we get faster SCs? Can we store outside, because the mining space is limited? I think government has had consultation on beneficiation a number of times. We await a holistic policy now.
Mr. N.D. Rao is also raising a question why OMC and NMDC are not delivering iron ore through slurry pipeline to customer home delivery like Amazon. So why we are not using slurry pipelines?
Slurry pipeline, setting up of a slurry pipeline in from our mines presently, the right of use and the land acquisition is such a nightmare. I think we have taken around close to 4.5, 5 years for setting up a slurry pipeline, which is just next door, around 150 kilometers. So it is not as easy as it is made out to be. But still, we are working on it. We would like to have a slurry pipeline to somewhere towards Raipur and one slurry pipeline towards Vizag. But it is definitely not today and definitely not tomorrow also. It is going to take time.
So before,
Yeah.
sorry.
For OMC part, I can say I agree with Mr. Suresh that it's basically for the PSUs, the getting a clearance is a difficult thing for the slurry pipeline. But yes, OMC is in touch with the other stakeholders, and OMC also now thinking to give go for the some benefits to be given to the my buyers who can put up their own mechanized evacuation system adjacent to mileage. OMC may not own it. They will put up their benefits, their mechanized evacuation system very adjacent to mileage. So they will be we will be giving them some preferences, some benefit may be extended to them. But OMC as a whole, as a owner, yes, OMC is not thinking of putting up any slurry pipeline. Another reason is that OMC is not thinking for the so to say NMDC is not thinking for a particular buyer. When they are here to serve the community, serve the industries. So putting a slurry pipeline for a particular buyer and they getting or delivering for everybody, it's difficult. If buyer wants, let them come to my adjacent slurry, adjacent lease area. We'll provide them all the facilities, all the guarantee, all the assurance.
Thank you so much, all the panelists. And before we, close the program, that's nearly at the end. I want to have very quick key takeaway from each one of you, very, very quickly. So first, I want to ask Mr. Arun Maheshwari, what is your final one key takeaway which you want to give to
Increase
the
the
audience?
supplies. Increase the supplies, everything else will get sorted out.
Suresh sir. Suresh sir. Yeah.
Allow us to increase supplies, everything will be sorted out.
Okay. Sabyasachi sir.
Give the more leases to the PSU so that they can serve the industries.
Okay. Vijay Jhavaji.
There should not be any restriction on the PSUs for the productions as well as the EC enhancement, facilitate for the EC enhancement and give the more leases to them. There are no area limitations for them should be.
I would suggest that the huge difference of opinion between the mining and steel companies, the ultimate loser will be our country. So I would definitely suggest NMDC and OMC should come forward. They should bring all the mining companies of the country and sit with the stalwarts of steel industry, representatives of secondary steel industry, and try to find out an amicable solution that how both can grow simultaneously and the country can grow.
Manish ji.
Cheaper fines, holistic policies on beneficiation, no import of pellets.
All right, all right. So, audience, with this, it's already 8 minutes over the time. I would like to thank you, all of you, for joining us for this, very quick webinar, 60 minutes webinar on iron ore availability. I would like to thank our esteemed panelists for sharing their insights, all the participants joining us today. The questions which we have raised, this discussion highlights the critical importance of planning, strategy, and collaboration across the steel ecosystem to address iron ore availability challenges. We hope you found the session informative and actionable. Metalogic looks forward to bringing much more webinars and conferences connecting industry leaders and professionals. Until then, stay connected, stay informed, and thank you once again for joining Metalogic webinar number 56 on iron ore availability. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.